Hello, everybody, and welcome to another special episode of the Migrant Hope channel. In this episode, I'll be focusing today on standing up for yourself in corporate America. I know there are so many of us who feel like sometimes we may have a conflict, sometimes certain things may be going in one way or another, which it's not probably favorable to you, but you don't know how to stand up for yourself, why, and how you can do so. Make sure you stick around for the rest of this video because I'll be talking about this, and I hope you learned something. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and most importantly, comment and let me know what your thoughts are. Thank you. So before I start sharing any tips or any information, I think one thing I really want to say is I know there are so many of us who deal with this every day. You may work in a place that for whatever reason, right? And let's not even put in any diversity issues. It's not like a race factor, it's not a gender, it's just you just don't feel like your voice is being heard. Sometimes you may work in an environment or in a space where it tends to be very cliquey. People always just want to be amongst themselves and not be able to share, and you're not able to like gel with the other people. So I think it's so important that we talk about these things, because one thing that I've learned is it's just not all about quitting, right? Like, you don't want to just quit and leave because you don't feel at peace here. No, because you'll probably go somewhere else and encounter that same situation. So I want to be able to help you guys, maybe think about different ways and how and why you should be able to stand up for yourself in corporate America. So the first thing I will talk about today is you need to really understand you need to know who you are and understand your value and the work value that you present. So what I mean by this is, so many times we may feel like, okay, we're not being heard for whatever reason. But if my work is good, if my work quality is good, there's no way anybody can try to like cheat me out of that, because that's something that it's in your brain. That's something that it's very evident by the work that you present. And this is why in so many of my previous videos, I always say it's so important to really know your worth and your value. And this is just not all about just self-esteem, but even in your work content, you should be able to say, okay, I worked on this deliverable, I worked on this project, I did this PowerPoint presentation, and I'm confident in my ability. So then in the case where you're presenting this information and saying, okay, right, you're talking to your supervisor or someone above you and saying, okay, I just don't feel heard, my work quality is good, I do a great job. Because a lot of times, and unfortunately, I feel like so many times we get cheated upon our work, because we cheated on opportunities, because sometimes your work contents may not be great and nobody's telling you this. So if you're not able to stand up for yourself, if you're not able to seek out that information your own self, you need to be able to do that, because at that point then you'll be able to get more opportunities. You'll feel like your voice is being heard. So that's just one thing to think about, right? Trust yourself. If your work quality is not up to par, maybe that's something that you need to work on, because I feel like a lot of times I work on stuff, right? And sometimes I know that I've not given my 100%, I've not given my 1001% to it, because sometimes it could just be I'm lazy, other than I'm like, but there are many times that I've done something, whether it's writing a paper in school, whether it's even just working right now. I know that, deep within myself, I'm like, all right, if I don't get a good grade, I know it's kind of my fault. So that's kind of why you need to be very confident in your work ability, because as a result of that, when you have these conversations and saying, I just don't feel like I'm being heard, people are able to say, oh yeah, okay, maybe let's figure out more and really go into depth as to why. Because your work quality is good, your work is amazing, everybody trusts your work, and we can actually rely on it. All right, y'all, the next part about this speaking up for yourself is we need to be able to, this is very unfortunate, but I find that it works. Depending on where you work, right? Try to fit into the culture of that company. I'm not saying change who you are. I'm not saying, don't be yourself. But I always say this, like, if it's a company you like and you don't feel the need to quit, you're working well, you're learning, you're doing a lot of important things, try to fit in that culture, right? Now, I'm going to say this, and I think a lot of times when my people, whether you're African, you're black, it doesn't matter, a lot of times when we work in corporate America, and I've mentioned this before, our cultures are very, very, very different to the majority, to Caucasians, right? It's very different. And I don't like when people say, oh no, we are one people. No, we all didn't grow up the same. We are very different in how we act, how we negotiate, how we deal with so many different things. That's why when you're in school, you would typically learn like some management class, because when you go to certain cultures, there's different ways that people behave and people act in businesses. So that's why I don't don't want us to just think that, oh yes, everybody's the same, because we are not. But I found that, and many of my people, I know that sometimes, we'll be in a work environment and we just feel like, okay, we're not being heard because of our culture. Now, I want to present this as a challenge to you today. Don't necessarily use that as a bad thing. Try to understand how these people behave. Try to understand how they correlate, how they work in businesses, and try to conform to that. See, in this life, right, I feel like sometimes, like, when you play victim too much, it will end up negatively impacting you. And I don't want this to come out negatively, but I want us to understand that, okay, they are majority, we are the minority. So how am I going to be able to win? That's my strategy in life. If I go into a situation and I say, okay, I'm the minority here, I have other people who are above me, but these other people are succeeding. And why am I not succeeding? Why is my voice not being heard? Why are people not calling me to do different projects, to do different? I say, okay, this is how, literally, guys, this is how I act. I say, all right, I befriend somebody who is like, maybe of the other race, who is getting opportunities I'm not getting. I'm like, okay, I see how they move, how they behave, how they react. I'm like, all right, they do this, they do that. I'm like, no problem, I'm going to do that. And the thing is, I trust my work. So I know that if it's in terms of the quality of the work, I'm not worried about that. I've taken care of point number 1. Point number 3 now is, okay, and now I try to really figure out, how are they doing? How is it possible that their voices are being heard and mine is not being heard? And then I try to emulate their behaviors. I do what they are doing. I'm like, okay, so I need to ask about your family. I need to do this. I need to do that. Guys, when I tell you that that has benefited me, and now, I'm not saying I don't build fake relationships, none of that. I don't believe in that. But I'm going to make myself successful, because people are succeeding and we are staying here and we are victimizing ourselves. In this life, I was not born to suffer. So I'm going to figure out a way to be successful. Now, guys, I think at this point I already lost the number count. I'm not even sure what number we're on, but I think we're on the point number 4. Is, if you know somebody who is experiencing this, right, they are saying, oh, my voice is not being heard, I don't feel like I'm being welcomed on my team, is, please don't encourage that person to quit. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. If someone comes and say, okay, Charlene, I'm not feeling myself at work, I just don't feel like I'm being helpful, please, I will never encourage you to quit. Why I say never quit is because you will go somewhere else and you will face the same situation. So if you don't learn how to deal with it now and today, how beneficial is that going to be for you in the future? That's why I say sometimes, we give up so easily and say, okay, I'm just not going to fight. It's not worth it. No, because you don't fight now, you will never learn to fight in the future. I hope this video was very helpful. And I hope that, if you feel like your voice is not being heard, your first reaction will not be to quit, but to actually make strides and make some sort of improvement in your own lives. Because honestly, guys, unfortunately, right, if you don't deal with it today, I promise you will deal with it at some other point. So why not learn how to deal with this now? Remember that we are young professionals and we are always trying to inspire intentional choices. Let's be very intentional about our actions, about our words, about our values and our morals. I hope that you learned something from this video today, and be sure to give it a thumbs up, to share, and to subscribe. I will see you guys in my next video, because that will be some interesting tea. And have a wonderful day. Goodbye.